Hello and welcome to the Elsa B. Smith Show. My lovely guest all the way from Cape Town today is Jenny Ibbotson, and the title is Tapping into Peace and Healing with Emotional Freedom Technique, also known as EFT. Jenny is presently a writer, speaker, and explorer of the new ideas of how we create our reality, both individual and collective. She is the author of a book called The Obedient Universe, which is available on Amazon. And this book describes how we create our own individual reality. This book was followed by the examination of how we create our collective reality, which led to a second book, How We Can Save the World. And I'm looking forward to getting that one from Amazon soon. In the process of her explorations, Jenny realized that it is our limiting beliefs that hold us back. Her search for a simple yet powerful way to release our limiting beliefs led her to a study and become a practitioner of the emotional freedom technique, which is also known as tapping. And about 7 years ago, she started a training in EFT and a technique called matrix re-imprinting using EFT. Jenny, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Elsie. It's lovely to be here.
How did you get into EFT?
Well, as you said in the introduction, and thank you for that, when I wrote my book, I realized that it is our limiting beliefs that hold us back. What I discovered, I guess, in my studies is that the power that we put out comes from our subconscious mind. Those are the thoughts that are beaming out like a radio transmission, like a TV transmission all the time. And those are creating our reality. So when people say to me, but how do I know what's in my subconscious mind? I will always say, well, look at your life, because that's what's there, you know. And I thought, okay, it's all very well to say that's how your life is. And those are your subconscious thoughts. But I realized that we need to access them. We need to transform them or release them or whatever it is we want to do with them. But we need to decide what our empowering beliefs are and almost embed them in our subconscious mind. And that's when things start to change. So I did a lot of research. I did a lot of courses. I read a lot of books, and I realized that I needed to find a technique. And then I was working with somebody who was marketing my book, and she did tapping.
Okay.
And she taught me the very basics of it. And I did use it a little bit. In the coaching that I do, I used it a little bit, and I began to realize how very powerful it was. And it was exactly what I was looking for. It was simple, non-intrusive, and I'm going to say immediate. I mean, there are often a lot of layers that we need to work through. But once you've identified the limiting belief, once it's out there, then you can start to transform it, release it, or do whatever you want. Yeah. So that was when I started studying EFT or tapping and using it. And now that's my practice. I do EFT and tapping. And I love it.
So what is it that you do? How does the tapping work?
Okay. Well, the tapping is based on the very ancient acupuncture technique. Oh, and so there are hundreds of meridian energies that run through our body, and conventional medicine hasn't really acknowledged them, but they are beginning to. There's no doubt. There are a lot of medical practitioners, chiropractors, nurses who are starting to use tapping. But so these energy meridians run through our body. Where we tap is mostly on the hubs where a lot of meridians come together. So that's how we access them. So I'm just going to, perhaps later, we can show the viewers exactly where they are. But the points are the top of the head, the top of the eye, the side of the eye, under the nose, the chin, collarbone and under the arm. Those are the main, I do use some other points, but those are the main points that I use. When I tap on those points with you, and Tiffany said that this is a very simple protocol, and some people do use more complex ones, but I use it all the time, and I find it very powerful. So when I tap on those points with you, well, when you tap on them and I tap with you, what we are doing is we are quietening the limbic system. And the limbic system is that part in the center of the brain, which is our reptilian brain, but it's the oldest part of the brain. Mm-hmm. And it's where memories are stored, and it's where the fight, flight, or freeze response is activated. Yeah. Okay, so when we tap, I don't want to go into too much detail about all of that because otherwise it just distracts. When I tap, what we do is we quieten that system down and we disassociate the actual memory from the emotional charge. Yeah. Yeah. Sort of bring the temperature down, let's say, quieten that emotional charge so that you can still remember an event or you can remember the issues that you have, but your whole system quietens down. The other thing that's very important when we do that is when you are in a state of stress, which people are, and actually that's what we're dealing with. And it doesn't matter whether it's money problems or weight problems or traumatic incidents, post-traumatic stress. Those things create a stress for us. So when we do quieten it down, what we do is we stop the brain sending a message to all our systems to produce cortisol and adrenaline. So once that quietens down, you feel calmer. And it also, when you're very stressed, the brain is very clever. What it does, it shuts down your prefrontal cortex where you do all your creative thinking because it says stress and all you need to do now is run away from it. So it's about reacting. You react, you fight, you flight, you freeze. So whereas what you need to do often is think creatively and carefully. But it shuts that part of the system down, which is great when you're being chased by a lion, but not so great when you try to do maybe everyday work or whatever it is. So it shifts your physiology so that you can be calm, you can start thinking differently, and also then you start to replace the anxiety and the fearful with calm ones, and you can be creative. So that's how it works in a nutshell.
You said that you would tap with me. Does that mean
yes?
Does that mean you demonstrate for me, or does that mean you actually physically tap on my body?
Well, no, I don't have to tap on your body. Okay. I do almost all my sessions by Skype now. Oh. So, but what I will do, what I can do with you is I can teach you how to tap, which we can do, and then I tap with you. So I will tap with you. And the strange thing is, and I suppose it's not so strange when we look at how the universe works, but I can feel your energy, whether you're in England or whether you're sitting in a chair across from me. So I don't know how that works. It's one of those wonderful miracles. But so we would tap. That's how we tap, and I can tap with you.
Okay, that actually makes sense. Well, we can't go into quantum physics now, but it does make sense to me.
Exactly. So, yes.
How successful is this? It sounds really simple that you just tap on various parts of your body and poof, the problem goes away. How successful is it?
Okay, I have found with some people that the change takes one session, and my sessions usually last an hour. I don't like to go over an hour because when you're shifting energy, it kind of it's quite draining. Not draining, but you need to just pause afterwards. So I've had some one session miracles or amazing events, and then with some people, I've done 6 sessions, and I just had a client recently who had gone through some traumatic events in his life, and when we had got to about session 5, I actually said to him, let's call him Joe. I said, Joe, I'm happy to go on having sessions with you, because he wanted to keep going on. I said, but I don't think you need me anymore. I think we've cleared everything that we need to for now. And he had literally transformed from a tearful and anxious, unhappy person in those 5 sessions to somebody who was suddenly loving life. And everyone said, what have you done? You look so different. What's happened? So it took us 5 sessions probably to really shift him and move him into that wonderful space that he's in now, enjoying his work, finding a new partner, looking forward to creating a successful financial future. So, it just varies. But I've almost never had an unsuccessful session. And the other thing I just want to say is that, what we can do is show people how to tap in this session. But what I just want to say, you can tap. It will never harm you. I have never heard of tapping harming anyone. So it's not like people will say, well, you don't know enough, and if you don't know enough, it'll harm you. It won't. You can tap anywhere, anytime, and it will just make you feel better.
Okay. So you've actually seen miracles happen within just one session of this?
Yeah, I have. I have. And sometimes I've wanted to do a couple more sessions, but I know that there are a lot of practitioners who say you've got to do 3 sessions up front. Yeah. I haven't ever done that because I always say to people, come back to me, and I want to leave it up to them. So, yeah, that's my way of doing it.
Now, another question. If you've had this, shall we say, baggage that you've been carrying,
yes.
and suddenly with the tapping, whether it's 1 session or 5 sessions, this baggage gets released. It is like,
yes.
It's like you've been walking around with a ball and chain on your foot, and now it's
yes.
gone. Don't
yes.
people find it difficult to now adapt to this freedom? Don't they find the urge to go back and go and find that comfort zone, which has really not been good for them?
Oh, that's such a beautiful question. There are certainly people who do. So one of the things I always say to people when they leave, especially if they've had a big shift, is you may feel very light. And very often people do. They say, I feel so light. And in fact, they always look a little bit spaced out when there's been a big shift. And then I always say to them, this has been your friend for so many years. This pain, this anxiety, it's been part of you for so long. You may feel a bit of grief about letting it go. And don't worry, that grief and that sadness tends to, it takes a couple of days and it goes. So that's one aspect of letting go, the things that we don't want but we hold on to. But the other thing is, actually, I just want to say right here, I use a process called psychological reversal. It's about the fact that while we do want to move forward, there is a part of us that doesn't want to. Yeah. And very often the reason is to keep us safe. So we're holding on to that thing because we think it's keeping us safe. That's what we think in our subconscious. So I do a thing called psychological reversal, which comes from a tapping expert called Lindsay Kenny. I just want to say her name because I love that work so much that she does. So I can just tell you. Let me give you a little case study of how it played out for me with one of my clients. So I had a woman who came to me and she said, "What I want to do is I really want to have a partner in my life." And so I said, okay, we're going to tap. So we started off, we always do a setup where you actually tap on the side of the hand, which I didn't tell you. So you do the setup, you tap on the side of your hand, and we did it about, I won't go into the setup right now, but we did that. We started tapping and we would go, this partner that I want, and I'm feeling lonely, and I really would like to have a companion in my life. That's what I want, etc. So we were tapping on all the issues that were coming up for her. And she suddenly stopped. And I said, "What has come up for you?" She said, "I don't know if I can do that." So I said, "Well, are you saying that you want a partner but you don't?" She said, "Yes." So we started exploring why she didn't want a partner. And what came up was her mother had always said to her, let's call her Mary, Mary, when you're with a man, you shouldn't talk about yourself, that, because they're not interested. Men are not interested in hearing about you. She said, what you must do when you're with a man is you ask them questions and you listen to the answer. So when this came up in the process of tapping, and this often happens, I'll say, as we're tapping, I'll say to somebody, what's coming up for you? Because you can see them sort of stop or change. Yeah. And what was coming up for her was her mother's voice in her head saying these things. So I said, so you don't really want a boyfriend in your life? No, because I lose myself in relationships. I don't want that. And that was exactly what she did. And she said, now I think back on the relationships that didn't work, all I did was look after them, ask them questions, listen to them, and I shut down. So then we knew that was what we had to work on. And before she would contemplate a partner, because not having a partner kept her safe. Yeah. She didn't lose herself. Yeah. So there is a lot of ambivalence when you tap with people, that I've been holding on to. There's always a good reason for holding on to things. Always. The subconscious knows exactly what it's doing. It's holding on to that to keep you safe. Sometimes it's not safe, but almost always it is. Yeah. So I have found that.
So you would let go of something, you would experience that lightness, which literally means, if you do a bit of research, that a quantum of light is formed in every cell of your body. And that, yes. That cannot be you remain at that level. But in the process, you might unearth other things. And it sounds to me like you would have to repeat the exercise, not to solve the original problem, but to solve the subsequent one, which now safely comes out of the closet.
Yes, absolutely. It really is layers of the onion, And as you peel one off, another one will come up. So not always, but most often. The stuff comes up as you're working with it. And so you release that, and then another one bubbles up. And I always say to people at the end of a session, we've been playing in the matrix and we've jiggled things up. You might have strange dreams. You might have memories of things that you've long forgotten that are suddenly coming up for you. So remember those, and that's what we'll work on the next session. And that often happens. So I want to tell you about two things just from your question. One is about the light, and the other one, that thing of letting go, of letting go now of these, of the memories or the ideas about yourself. So what it is that I was just working recently with a client who has a story. Her story is that she had a difficult childhood, and that she was always regarded as the the difficult one, and the one who, because she was so rebellious, she would never succeed, and so on. So when I started working with her, she said, I'm just tired of struggling financially and in every other way, but particularly financially. I'm so tired of this life of struggle, and I want to let it go now. I want to be prosperous and I want to be stable. Anyway, in the process of working on this, I asked her the question, so who would you be without all this drama? Because another aspect of that question you asked about, what happens when you let go of something that's been part of you for so long? So her story was this, sad story, and her life was full of drama. I've never known anyone who'd moved from, it was from drama to drama. And so I said, who would you be without this? Whew, long silence, and so we started working with it. And in the process, what came up for her is, I don't know if I can let this go. So we were tapping as we were talking. I don't know if I can let this go. It just feels too hard. So I don't know what'll be left. Well, who am I? What am I? Because this is me. This is my persona, my identity. This is who I am. And so we had to work hard. I actually had a client a while ago who, in a meditation that we went into, because she was really struggling, we walked across, she built a bridge across a chasm from where she was to where she wanted to be. And she literally could not step off the bridge into that new world because she didn't know who she'd be in it. And it was too scary for her. So, but with this current client that I'm working with, she's now we are in the process of building the new story, the new persona that is it's already feeling much better for her. And I'm loving watching it. But it is that same thing of how do we let go of who we are. Mm-hmm. And just on the light, which you brought up, matrix re-imprinting, I use a lot of the time. It's a process, but what I always do is end with a meditation where you bring the light of your new vision, the joy, the light, the safety we let that light flow in through the crown chakra, through the body, into every cell of the body. And I get them to visualize that new feeling in every cell, as if it was a light lighting up the cell, lighting up the chakras. Mm-hmm. And it's just lovely. Love it.
That really sounds good. So if I want to book a session with you, I can have one session. Can I, at the end of that session, do this for myself without booking another session if I want to?
Absolutely. And that is the joy of it. What I often do with people is I'll teach you to tap when you do a session. So by the end of the session, you know exactly how to tap. We use certain words. So those words, people often say to me, how do I know what words to use? You just use the words that you're thinking. If you're thinking, how am I going to get out of this terrible situation I'm in? I've got no money. I've got the rent to pay. Then that's what you tap on. How am I going to get out of this? I feel desperate. I feel awful. I've got the rent to pay and I've got no money coming in. So you literally say all the things you feel. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say, because that's actually a very important part about tapping that people need to know. I think in our culture, and mine certainly, I was brought up not to get upset, not to get angry, don't get angry, everything's fine, you just stay calm. And, emotion in my growing up years, which was a long time ago, wasn't really welcomed, We don't want to know how you're feeling because we all feel fine. So what we do is we suppress it, and then we begin to believe that having emotions is wrong. Mm. And we've got to, if a sort of little thing of anger rises up, we've got to suppress it. And then what happens, as you know, Elsabe, I mean, I'm sure in the work you do, it comes out at inappropriate times. So you're in a situation where you are aggravated and you just blow up because you've been suppressing this anger for so long. So, okay, so what you have to do with tapping is you have to say exactly how you feel.
Okay.
With all the bad words, you can swear, you can rant, and you can let it all out, because until you've done that, you can't start building a new story, and you can't start embedding empowering ideas on top of limiting beliefs. It's impossible, because they'll always come up. Yeah. There's a tapping master called Robert Smith, who always says, an emotion buried alive will never die. And it is so true. So what we do is we dig them up, let them out, so that you can let them go, and then you can start working on the new ways you want to think and to be, and the new things you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating how the most powerful things are the simplest things sometimes.
Exactly. I know.
So, if people want to get hold of you, they don't need to go to Cape Town. Unfortunately, because Cape Town is, for me, the Garden of Eden, they can they can connect with you on your website, yes, where there is a contact form, and they can arrange Skype sessions with you on there.
Yes, and they can also inbox me on Facebook. My Facebook is Jenny Ibbotson, and I've got the Obedient Universe, a Facebook page. So they can inbox me, and they can just tell me how to contact them, and we can set up a session.
Your Facebook page would be called The Obedient Universe, which is the name of the book that is already available on Amazon.
Yeah, right.
Brilliant. Jenny, thank you so much. This has been really, really interesting, and I'm sure you're going to have quite a few inquiries after the show.
Okay. Elspie, can I just say another thing? There is a lot on the internet about tapping, and people can search it, and they can find the tapping points, and they can do their own tapping as well. And when I work with people, I teach them a few little ways of what I call first aid tapping. You know, when you're in that meeting with your boss and it's not going well, little ways to just calm down. So, but they can find a lot on the internet.
The show next week, same place, same time, is called Resistance is Futile. Get inspiration from the Kabbalah. And my guest is the acclaimed author and BBC broadcaster Maggie Whitehouse, another one to really look forward to. Thank you. Goodbye. See you next week.